What predicts collector booster box prices? That's the question. If we could do that, we can make lots of money. And that's what this channel's about, baby, making lots of money. Well, I mean, there's better ways to make lots of money, but you know what I'm saying. Right, so I've got a spreadsheet here, and this spreadsheet outlines my hypothesis for trying to predict a collector booster box money-making potential. Of course, this spreadsheet was put together in part by my intern, but my intern didn't know which sets had serialized cards, which sets had headliners in them, so I had to fill this in myself, which means there could be mistakes here. So, but I'm pretty sure this is right. Here's a row for each collector booster box ever since Ikoria Lair Behemoths. And we have the current price that it's going for on TCG Player, the release date, and so we have the years, how many years old it is. And the question that we're going to pose, because, let's take a step back. The question I started this video with, what predicts if a collector booster box is going to make money, is going to grow in value? And that question's a little broad. We would love to know exactly what predicts a collector booster box going up in value and making us lots of money. But we got to break that down into smaller questions. And this is the scientific method. You know what you were supposed to learn doing science fair growing up in grade school, but you never actually learned because it was just a chore and you just got through it, and it was just dumb. It was kind of busy worky. Yeah, that what we were supposed to learn doing science fair and science projects and things like that in grade school is what we're actually going to learn in this video today. So what we got to do is we got to ask a big question, which we just did. How can we know if a collector booster box is going to make us tons of money? Then we got to narrow it down to a simpler, smaller question. And so let's just take a piece of that giant question. What is one thing that collector booster boxes have or don't have that could predict how valuable they are? Let's talk about serialized cards. Do serialized cards make collector booster boxes more valuable? That is a great question. I've also included a call out for headliners. Headliners, I think, are very interesting. When the card is not serialized, like Edge of Eternities is a great example, but so is Spider-Man. Edge of Eternities had the Zalthiran Void whatever thing, this headliner card, this very special chocolatey fudge coated chase card you could get, but it was not serialized. Same thing for Spider-Man. We know that all of the stones, the Infinity Stones, hold up one second. Marvel Superheroes most certainly does have a headliner. It has those Infinity Stone things. All right. So the Infinity Stones, not serialized, but they're headliner cards. It's a chase card that you can open, but it's not serialized. So calling out some of the more recent sets. And you can see here too, check out this journey that Wizards of the Coast has gone through. This is just an aside from the point of this video, but serialized cards started with Brothers War. And then even then, it wasn't every set. They didn't do serialized cards in Dominaria Remastered. They didn't do them in Phyrexia All Will Be One, but then they did them in March of the Machines and so on and so forth. And then recently, almost every set has had a serialized card. The exceptions to that are Universes Beyond and I guess Edge of Eternities. But every set has had some kind of headliner or serialized card since Foundations. Foundations did not. Now, and let's back up. This is a good second to talk about all of the different things that Wizards of the Coast does in collector booster boxes to try to make them valuable. In all collector booster boxes, there are cards that are unique to the collector booster boxes. That is cool. In Ikoria Lair Behemoths, you can open up an extended art, whatever, monster card. And you can't get those extended arts in regular booster packs. And so that is exclusive to the collector booster box. Now, the question is, do extended arts have a high premium? And the answer to that is no, they absolutely do not. In Core Set 2021 or even Zendikar Rising or Commander Legends, a lot of these cards didn't have, or a lot of these boxes didn't have unique cards to them that made them special. And even though the prices can be pretty high, Commander Legends has a pretty high price tag. when you go and I guess I can do this in real time on TCG Player. When you go onto TCG Player and look up Commander Legends, you look up all the cards inside of it, and you look at the most valuable ones, you'll see some of the stuff from the collector booster boxes, but the premium just isn't that good. So this is what I'm talking about, is that a extended art Jeweled Lotus is like the hit card from original Commander Legends. However, a regular Jeweled Lotus is like 30-40 bucks. So you get a bonus 20 bucks from hitting the extended art chase card in the collector booster box. In general, these older collector booster boxes did not have special stuff, at least not special in the way that the market treats it as special. These cards are very similar to the cards you can get in the normal box. I mean, you know, you can open up Mana Drain in a normal booster pack. You can open up the Mana Drain Extended Art, and it has a $15 premium. Whoop-de-doo. So that's kind of the point, is that a lot of these older booster boxes, older collector booster boxes, did not have the special sauce that made them particularly, well, at least didn't make the singles inside of them valuable. Now, let's take another step back. Do the singles inside the box dictate how expensive the box will be? No, absolutely not. We just looked at Commander Legends, where the most expensive card you can open up is like 66 bucks. Actually, though, let's check on that. Check on foil. Can we get a foil check on aisle 4? All right, fine. The foil card is 200 bucks. So you can open up a foil extended art Jeweled Lotus. You're going crazy. However, the booster box costs over like 700 bucks. So, and this is just true for most booster boxes, most collector booster boxes. You cannot open up a card. And I think that this is true for the majority of draft booster boxes or play booster boxes since the dawn of time, is that the cards inside that box are not worth what the box costs. And I still see this. I see this in the comment section. I see this in other videos sometimes that people make, saying that like, oh, well, the cards inside the box aren't very expensive, so the box can't go up. That's just not true. It's just not true. All right, enough said. So we have this kind of old age of collector booster boxes where they didn't really have anything valuable in them, not compared to the normal packs. Now, the collector booster boxes could go up and still be valuable and interesting and opened and sought after, but the cards inside were never going to be that special until Brothers War, when they started serialized cards. And now Brothers War, we do see these collector boxes have a premium. They are quite, expensive. And there were a lot of serialized cards in Brother War. So it was an interesting time. Wizards of the Coast has done a number of sets where they have tons of serialized cards. And then there's other sets where there's very little, very few. But when, in general, the older the collector booster box is that has serialized cards, the more serialized cards there are. They've really tightened this up over the years, which is interesting. But something I want to point out. So, now moving back to the thesis or the question of this video, which is like, do serialized cards predict a box being expensive, or do headliner cards predict a box being expensive? So back in the day, I guess what there really should be, and I'm going to add this column here, and maybe I'll do it for a different video, or special treatment. Something I'm not tracking here, but could be really interesting, is if there is a special treatment of the cards inside of the set. So for example, Streets of New Capenna does have a special treatment. Streets of New Capenna has the gilded foils, which, if you didn't know, it's actually one of the coolest treatments ever. The unfortunate thing is that the most expensive gilded foil is like 30 bucks. It's just, they're not on expensive cards. They're not on good cards. And so they're just not that expensive. Now, there was a special treatment in Phyrexia. All will be one. There were actually multiple special treatments. There's the Etch and Complete. Ooh, I've got one. I got to show it off. Every chance I get, got to show off my screw PSA slab. This is my Etched and Complete Phyrexian Obliterator. Haha, so cool. Hey, PCG9. I'm awesome. So, Etched and Complete foils were special in Phyrexia All will be one. There's also the raised oil slick foils, which are also special and also, well, oh, sorry, no, those just came in the special bundle. I don't think those came in collector booster boxes, but I digress. They're special treatments, and Phyrexia all will be one. I can put a 1 inside of this column. By the way, what I'm doing here, these are called dummy variables or Boolean variables, where you're just marking 0, 1, 0, 1, like, does this have it, does this not? And this helps, you know, what you're trying to do when you do statistics is just turn basic facts about reality into numbers so that you can give it to computer and say, like, all right, draw a line through these and tell me if there's correlation here. And if there's correlation, then you can dig in further and see if there's causation. Because what we're trying to figure out is, do serialized cards cause collector booster boxes to be worth more? Do headliner cards cause booster boxes to be worth more? Do special treatments cause booster boxes to be worth more? And that's a hard question to answer, but this is a good first step. So, you know, Phyrexia all will be one is a really interesting one. The booster box is expensive. It's basically $1,000. It's not that old. You know, it's, well, I mean, it's one of the older collector booster boxes, but it's not that old. And it doesn't have serialized card. It does not have a headliner card. There are just the etched and complete foils that you can get in the collector booster boxes. And those, frankly, aren't, oh, well, some of them, I guess, are worth kind of a lot. You get the special concept treatment Praetors and things like that. But I digress. This is evidence against the hypothesis that serialized or headliner cards are what matters. Then you get March of the Machines, where there's serialized cards. You get the Aftermath, did not have serialized cards, and so on and so forth. Lord of the Rings had serialized cards, so on and so forth. Then you get into this modern day where we do get sets of serialized cards, but what we get actually more often in the past year has been these headliner only. So Edge of Eternities, Marvel Spider-Man, Avatar The Last Airbender, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Marvel Superheroes, and The Hobbit all had headliner cards, very special, super chocolatey fudge-coated chase cards, but they're not serialized. And so the question is, if we get this to a computer and have it, you know, estimate, I guess I need to give a little bit more detail. What the most powerful tool, in my opinion, in statistics is the linear regression and the multivariate regression. And essentially what it is if you can turn a bunch of details into numbers, you can give it all to the computer and say, draw a line of best fit through these. And, you know, if I don't have my pad out, I'd love to just draw this for you. But when it draws the line, you can see, like, okay, are these things correlated? And then, like I said, if things are correlated, that's step one. And then you got to figure out in other clever ways if there's causation there. So the question is, if we give these numbers to a computer, what's it going to say about the correlation? And of course, I give it to my intern, and these are some of the things that it found. First off, serialized cards does carry weight. The fact that a set has a serialized card does predict that it will be worth more than sets without serialized cards. Let me take a step back. One thing I'm controlling for in this data, you can, in linear regressions, you can have control variables or multivariate regressions, whatever you want to call it. You can have control variables, and I'm controlling for age. So I'm basically saying, like, age, we expect that as time goes on, collector booster boxes go up in value. Let's take that off the table. There's lots of things we're not controlling for. For example, we're not controlling for set size. We're not controlling for if the boxes were opened up by skill check by release day. You know, there's lots of really interesting variables we could add to this that would help our data science get better. But we don't have those right now. All we're doing is we're controlling for how old is the set, and then we're checking, is there serialized cards? Are there headliner cards? And then seeing if the serialized and headliner cards help predict the price. So back to what my intern was finding. Serialized cards do carry a signal. Yeah, sorry, just reading what my intern put. It's actually not that helpful. The serialized effects is driven by a handful of outliers, not serialization itself. Oh, interesting. So we get things like Lord of the Rings Special Edition, Fallout, Universes Beyond Chase products. Ooh, so this is kind of suggesting that Universes Beyond might be And see, I'm writing down another variable because this is something additional that we might want to check and see what we get the results for. So see if universes beyond is a predictor. But the serialized effect seems to be driven by a bunch of outliers. What's interesting too is age apparently has 0 predictive power here. That's crazy. Saying that age sets appreciate. Oh, wow. Where a young premium box can easily outprice an old bulk one. Well, okay, this kind of makes sense because these old boxes, you look at how many of these old boxes are like $300-$400, and some of them have appreciated. But this is back when collector booster boxes just weren't as interesting. There weren't as many good things in here. They hadn't figured out how to make them really interesting and attractive to open. And so it does make sense in some ways that these older ones just aren't going to be as attractive as these new flashy ones. You look at these 4-digit ones, none of these old ones, the first 4-digit collector booster box, I mean, I guess is essentially Phyrexia will be 1. And that was, 3 years plus after they had started making. So there's 3 years of collector booster boxes that were just, even though they're old, they're just not powerful. And so because of that, when this regression was run, is basically like age doesn't predict value, and I guess it doesn't, which is fascinating in this case, in this context. I think age would predict. I think age has played a role in the value of Phyrexia All Will Be One or Lord of the Rings, but it's not playing out that way inside of this data. Very interesting. So there's lots of questions that could be asked, lots of questions that we've answered. Does Serialized predict box value? No, I guess it doesn't. It's basically just being outweighed by some of these universes beyond sets that have Serialized. And so there might actually be what's called like an interaction variable where I'm not sure if it's called interaction variable. You could tell me, if you're a nerd, tell me when you get the 2 variables multiplied by each other and you get a coefficient. There might be an interaction between universes beyond and Serialized that, and I'm actually going to write this down, interaction between Serialized and universes beyond, because that might be what's telling. So we're making progress, friends. Thank you for coming along on this ride. I will do follow-up videos on this. So thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for being here, and subscribe. You ought to subscribe. You should subscribe.